What if I tell you that there is a change in the way the AI marks the retail lecture question? And what if I tell you that I did 3 experiments on this PT AI for this particular task, which is retail lecture? And I'm sure you want to know whether these tests were successful or not in the exam. If you want to know these things, then watch it till the end. Welcome back everyone. I am Anurag, and my focus in this video will be on the retail lecture new strategies after the PT AI changes and the result of my experiments with the AI, which has never been discussed before by anyone. So subscribe for free content and don't hesitate to WhatsApp us for paid coaching directly by me in very small groups where each of you will have a chance to talk to me directly. But before I tell you what has changed in the PT AI, let me ask you something. Do you think the retail lecture task is important? Well, it contributes around 10 points to your speaking scores as well as 10 points to your listening scores, making it an important question in the PT exam. Although it falls under the speaking section, but because of also listening to the audio or the video in order to give your response, so equal amount of points are also added to your listening section. And after you finish listening to the audio or the video, you get only 10 seconds to prepare for your response, which makes it very challenging if you do not have a template to help you. Almost everyone who I have come across when I was preparing for my PT exam used some kind of templates. So I am going to show you 3 templates or 3 template styles that I tried in the official PT mock tests and how I got the different scores. Note taking is definitely important for this question. You need to take down notes for the keywords, the key phrases, and then fit them into these templates. Before I show you my experiments, I wanted to tell you a very interesting and insightful knowledge. I talked to a source here in Australia who used to work for Pearson a long time back, just to understand how the PT AI algorithm works, because I wanted to understand if there are any changes to the templates that we need to make or not. So I asked him, do we need to change the templates all the time to get the top score? Do you know what he said? I will tell you what his answer was shortly, but before that, I want to show you some of my own experiments that I did over this week on the official mock test to check how it has changed. Mind it, for other speaking tasks, I attempted properly, so I could measure my experiments only for the retail lecture questions, because that was the focus of my research. I had to give 3 mock tests to try them all out. It was a tiring process, but hope my hard work can benefit you all. Let's hear an example lecture so that I can show you how I used my template with relevance to the lecture.
It takes a lot of fuel to launch something into space. Sending NASA's space shuttle into orbit required more than 3.5 million pounds of fuel, which is about 15 times heavier than a blue whale. But a new type of engine called a rotating detonation engine promises to make rockets not only more fuel efficient, but also more lightweight and less complicated to construct. Researchers at the University of Washington have developed a mathematical model that describes how these engines work. With this information, engineers can, for the first time, develop tests to improve these engines and make them more stable. A conventional rocket engine works by burning propellant and then pushing it out of the back of the engine to create thrust. A rotating detonation engine takes a different approach to how it combusts propellant, Koch said. It's made of concentric cylinders. Propellant flows in the gap between the cylinders, and after ignition, the rapid heat release forms a shock wave, a strong pulse of gas with significantly higher pressure and temperature that is moving faster than the speed of sound. Conventional engines use a lot of machinery to direct and control the combustion reaction so that it generates the work needed to propel the engine. But in a rotating detonation engine, the shock wave naturally does everything without needing additional help from engine parts.
These are the relevant notes I scribbled on my notepad. Note down as many things as you can from the lecture. Lot of fuel, launch, space, new engine, fuel efficient, lightweight, less complicated, and so on. I use hyphens to show relations and arrows to show actions when I take notes. It helps me when I am speaking my response to find out the relation. So the first template that I used is the simplest one. And my response was something like this. The speaker was describing rocket engines. Firstly, she talked about lightweight. Then she explained propellant. Later, she also described thrust and shock wave. Moreover, she discussed rotating engine. Overall, she gave crucial information about rocket engines. Earlier, I used to get 90 with this template, but now my speaking scores didn't reach 90s, although I spoke with good fluency, giving me a hint that something has changed in the PT algorithm. But I still need to find out why and how I can still get 90. Has the PT AI really changed? Continue watching to find out whether it has changed or not. The second template I used for my trial had more words in it. So it used some pre-existing phrases already in it. As you can see on the screen, the first and the last sentences are a bit longer, which are the introduction and the conclusion. Although it is saying the same thing, but just elaborating a little bit more. Please note that this template has same number of keywords as the first one that I just showed you. And this is the response I said. According to the lecture, the speaker was describing the highlights of different types of rocket engines. Firstly, she talked about lightweight. Then she explained propellant. Later, she also described rotating engine. Moreover, she discussed thrust and shock wave. Overall, she suggested crucial information about the importance of rocket engines. Again, fluency-wise, I spoke with great fluency, with no hesitations or no wrong pronunciation, very clearly as I am talking to you guys right now. This time, my score rocketed a bit towards 90, but still not 90 overall. But the big question here is why? Let me show you my third template and then I will give you the reasons. The third and the final template I used was a variation of template 1 that I showed you earlier, but this time I'm using it more as a structure. As you might have noticed, the introduction now has central idea instead of just the main keyword there, which is actually going to be a phrase. Similarly, if you see the conclusion, it has been replaced with a phrase, and also sentence 3 also has a phrase in it. I already noted many keywords and phrases. So even if you did not note as many phrases as I did, just combine the keywords to create meaningful phrases. My final response was, the speaker was describing the conventional and rotating detonation engines. Firstly, she talked about fuel efficiency. Then, she explained conventional engines and how they burn propellants. Later, she also described less complicated and more stable. Moreover, she discussed the shock wave and thrust. Overall, she implied that conventional engines use a lot of machinery. And finally, I got a 90 score with this response. So what does that mean here? Has the AI really changed or not? Now coming back to the question I asked the guy about how the PT AI works. Do you know what he said? The AI keeps learning and evolving all the time. What does that mean for you? Just hold on a little bit more and I will disclose you what my experiment's verdict is and also what the golden secret this guy at the PT told me to stick to. Let's see which of my experiments got the top scores and why. Do you know why template 2 got more score than template 1? Because although I used the same keywords as template 1, but the introduction and the conclusion have inbuilt phrases in them, which makes them compound or complex sentences. Although content is not weighted that much in the speaking section, but if you don't focus on it, you cannot get a perfect 90. You can still get 79 plus score with a mediocre content like template 1 and template 2. But only template 3 got me 90 because it sounded more natural. Do you know why template 3? And the reason is because I used more phrases in the introduction, in the body, and in the conclusion on my own. Again, making them complex or compound sentences. So it sounded more natural. Same way we speak to someone, we explain it in a bit more elaborative manner. Not just say keywords, right? So the PT algorithm has changed. Now comes the final verdict. And the golden secret was to stick to the PT scoring guidelines word by word. And the template 3 that I showed you just now is the same I have been sharing with my students, which still works perfectly, even after the AI has changed. Do you know why? Because we are also following the PT scoring guidelines and not trying to trick the AI here. So our students don't have to change their templates as long as they stick to the basics. The moral of the story and my experiments is to stick to the basics and just fulfill the scoring guidelines, whatever the AI changes to. It can never go against the scoring guidelines, never. A more natural answer with more number of phrases instead of just using keywords will get you a perfect 90 score in this task, and you can get a 90 score in this entire speaking section as well. Subscribe and hit the bell icon now, and WhatsApp us anytime for paid coaching directly with me, because that's the way you crack the PT exam. Goodbye and see you in the next video.